AWOOGA, a brand new reasonably sized high refresh rate quantum dot OLED monitor is available? What? I know what you're asking. Who can I throw my money at to purchase this work of art? But wait a minute. Before you punch a hole in the wall with your loins, let's first take a look at this bad boy to determine whether or not it's actually worth buying. And starting off with the specs, the Samsung G85SB is a 175Hz glossy, 34-inch curved 21:9 quantum dot OLED panel with a resolution of 3440 by 1440, giving it a PPI of 109.68, so slightly better than the 42-inch LG C2. It also boasts a contrast ratio of 1,000,000:1 and a lightning fast response time of a stated 0.03 milliseconds, which of course will make this a fantastic gaming monitor, blowing even the best LCDs out of the water in terms of motion clarity. Additionally, it supports FreeSync and G-Sync technology, though I do believe it does not have a G-Sync module, which is a real shame considering the price. It's rated for HDR400 True Black, has viewing angles of 178 degrees, and thank God it has Bixby support. And in terms of ports, we're talking about and here's where things start to get rough. It has a mini display port, one micro HDMI 2.1 port, which it is nice to have 2.1, two USB-C ports, and a non-standard power plug, so don't lose it. And I'm sure some people will find the mini ports cool, but realistically, it's just annoying to me because nobody's gonna have these cords laying around, meaning if you wanna use HDMI 2.1, I guess you better order a cable on Amazon or something, since mine didn't come with one. The stand sucks, by the way, and yes, it does have VESA mount compatibility. And finally, this thing comes in at a whopping $1,500, so it better be good, and there's only one way to find out. That's right, let's break this bad boy in. Starting off with the color, here we can see actually by default it wasn't too far off from the white point I would like. However, the RGB values were way off, so I was able to calibrate it to a perfect 6500K with a delta E of just 0.2, a great improvement over the 8.3, which by the way, I will have all my settings as well as ICC profile for not only this monitor, but all the monitors I ever review on my Patreon, linked in the description below. However, the only downside to this calibration is it did seem to reduce the brightness by around 8%, but hey, I think it's a small price to pay for an actually accurate display. Now moving on to the color gamut after calibration, I got 99.3 sRGB, 81% Adobe RGB, and 85.9% DCI-P3. In terms of volume, I got 126.7 sRGB, 87.3 Adobe RGB, and 89.7 DCI-P3. So pretty good overall, although I would like to see this get better with future versions. Now moving on to the really exciting stuff, and here we got to talk about the peak brightness, and this one, it is a little bit disappointing when compared to its bigger brother, the S95B, which is using similar panel technology. As you can see in a 10% window, it falls far short at 427 nits, whereas the S95B, I got 946 nits, and yes, I did go into the settings and make sure that I was able to get the brightness boosting unlocked, so unless there's something I missed, this is likely as bright as it's gonna get after calibration, which again, that's about half the brightness of the S95B, so a little bit disappointing when it comes to the peak brightness. However, the brightness in a 100% window is actually very impressive. It is the brightest OLED I have tested so far when it comes to that full screen brightness, coming in at 237 nits, beating out even the S95B, meaning that yes, if there's a very bright overall scene, this monitor will likely do very well. But now let's go ahead and take a look at a game, Battlefield 1 HDR, and the peak brightness I got out of this was 364 nits. So once again, that peak brightness is a little bit disappointing because it comes in last when compared to all the other OLEDs. Even the fairly dim 27GR95 QE-B, what a great name, from LG, which I found to be fairly dim overall. Although I will say this monitor, even though it doesn't have that peak brightness, once again, the full screen is actually much brighter than many of the OLEDs on this list. So it's a little bit better than it looks on this chart. But now let's go ahead and talk about the total system latency. And here I was a little bit disappointed because at 175 Hertz, you'd expect it to be better than the 34 milliseconds that it brought in, actually making it 1 millisecond slower than the S95B at 144 Hertz. So what's the point of those extra frames? Well, you do see a smoother image, but if it's not going to reduce your latency, part of that advantage is kind of getting thrown out the window. So once again, S95B does seem to be outperforming it in many metrics. And then you look at that LG OLED and oh my lord, does that smoke this monitor in terms of latency. And now moving on to power draw. This is a new one I'm adding in, so I don't have a whole lot of results, but here you can see that yes, OLED does draw a lot more power than LCD, as it is drawing 123 watts in a full white screen versus the 40.5 on an LCD display. However, the S95B is drawing a whopping 257 watts, so it is a lot better than that. And then finally, taking a look at the ghosting test, here you can see I did follow it with the camera and it is giving us nearly a perfect screenshot at 175 Hertz. Quantum dot OLED technology just gives you such a fantastic moving image that it's, again, nearly a perfect screenshot and gets nowhere near the atrocious black level smearing and inverse ghosting you can expect to see on even the best LCDs. So this is a big reason as to why I suggest people, if you can budget it, purchase an OLED monitor of some kind, as it will give you a much cleaner image, which in motion can help quite a bit in online gaming. Now, in terms of overclocking this thing, I could not get any overclocks to work whatsoever, so you're not getting any extra performance likely. In terms of the finish, as I mentioned earlier, it's using a beautiful glossy display, so Quantum dot OLED plus glossy not only gives you a fantastic image when looking straight at it, but also that curve helps so that you don't get any uniformity issues visibly when you're looking straight at it, considering how long the monitor is. In terms of the viewing angles, however, if you do view it at the side for some reason, it's actually fantastic. It looks really, really good, and I didn't see any major uniformity issues whatsoever. Now, it does have any G-Sync issues because it doesn't have a G-Sync Ultimate module. I didn't notice any. However, I have noticed on a lot of monitors, if you bring up a program like Premiere Pro, if it's not G-Sync Ultimate, which it looks like this monitor isn't, there is a possibility that certain programs may give you some flickering, so do keep that in mind. The Alienware version likely will not have that issue because it's a certified G-Sync Ultimate display. Now, other issues that I had with this display, well, unfortunately, it's Samsung, so there's gonna be quality control issues on their monitors because for whatever reason, I have the worst luck with their monitors, and it happened yet again. I got actually some weird TV static when opening up or closing certain programs. Additionally, just because of the way they have their RGB layout, it does have red and green color fringing on the edges of text. Funnily enough, the S95B using the same monitor technology, I don't notice any color fringing whatsoever. However, on this one, it's very noticeable, and honestly, it's so bad that I would say I cannot recommend this for any type of video or photo editing. It's unusable. It also has some backlight issues where if you put any amount of light in front of it, it'll kind of light up the backlight for some reason. And then again, yeah, you're gonna have probably some amount of Samsung quality control issues on quite a few of them that go out, because honestly, at this point, guys, I don't think that Samsung's monitor division even has quality control, because I have purchased around 10 different monitors from Samsung over the last 10 years, and every single one, without fail, has had some sort of quality control issue. And it seems like that's not changing, as again, I did have issues with this monitor as well. So honestly, guys, to give you my conclusion, is the display beautiful? Absolutely. Is it fast? Yes, it's a fantastic OLED display, but considering that it's made by Samsung and it's having quality control issues and it doesn't have G-Sync Ultimate and it's $200 more than the Alienware version, which does and has some really annoying mini display and micro HDMI ports, I honestly cannot recommend this display to anybody. It makes no sense whatsoever to pick it up over the Alienware version. And I'm also going to start giving people a disclaimer that considering how many Samsung displays that I've picked up in terms of monitors that have had issues, I gotta warn you on basically every single Samsung monitor out there, be very careful that it has a good warranty, because there is a good chance that it could have quality control issues. And that's just yet another reason for me not to recommend this display. If you're interested in this, I highly recommend taking a look at the Alienware version. Yes, it doesn't have HDMI 2.1, however, it has so many other things about it that I like more than this, and it's actually cheaper, and even the WDF, which has a slightly lower refresh rate and no G-Sync Ultimate, is even cheaper. I think it's around $1,000, so you're saving between $200 to $500 if you go with one of the Alienware models, and you're really not giving up a whole lot. So I'm gonna give this a big thumbs down. It's a beautiful display, but it's just makes no sense to purchase. You know what? In fact, I give this and Samsung's monitor division the middle finger. Get your shit together, Samsung. Whether you're looking to connect a new console, gaming PC, or just need a fast and reliable HDMI cable to connect over long distances, RooPro has you covered with their RooPro AK HDMI 2.1 fiber optic cable, available in sizes ranging from 3 to 165 feet, and can deliver a perfect full 48 gigabits per second connection over distances other cables could only dream of reaching. And with 48 gigabits per second of bandwidth, it can easily drive 8K at 60 FPS or 4K at 120 FPS HDR10 video through its ultra-thin, flexible, and durable housing, and it even supports eARC. So if you're in the market for a cable that can drive a beautiful new TV or monitor, be sure to check out RooPro on Amazon today.